Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melisa Galasso, and today we're going to talk about a report that was issued by the FASB, their 2022 FASB Investor Outreach Report. I want to talk about this report in particular because it is a focus of the FASB to always get feedback on users, right? Very often they hear from practitioners, they hear from preparers, but what they really want to make sure is that the financial statements are helping users. And so they issue each year this investor outreach report to understand how investors are involved in the standard setting process. And so I'm going to show you how to get there and a little bit about this. So here's the FASB home, and we're going to go over to where we're looking at this, and we're going to go over to for investors. So you go to projects and then for investors, and then you want to go to the 2022 investor outreach report. And when we're in the 2022 investor report, again, it highlights their outreach, and they talk a little bit about their agenda consultation that they started back in 2016, and then again they did another one in 2021. But they talk a little bit about how investors were involved in the various processes. And again, they go back to what is the mission, which is to establish and improve financial standard to improve standards of financial accounting and reporting that foster reporting by non-governmental entities that provide decision useful information to investors and other users. And so they obviously need the investor view. And so as they go through that, they talk a little bit about why they have that, what their goal is. And then they talk about how they engage with various types of investors. So as you can see here, they talked to 485 interactions over that calendar year, or that fiscal year, I guess, of June 30. And then when you look at them, 42% came from the buy side, 23% came from the sell side, but they also had credit rating agencies and lenders, etc. And so as they go through this, they talk a little bit about what the impact is and how did they hear from them. Again, so they have advisory groups, but they also have other outreach as they go through here. But you'll notice very small percentage comes from comment letters. And so when we're looking at comment letters, they just don't hear as much as they hear from practitioners and other types of feedback providers. And so when we typically go through this, again, some of the issues that they have is that investors are not necessarily following the standard setting process. And so as a result, they're not getting, as much information, as well as many investment firms are not allowed public attribution of a view expressed during outreach or discussion. So again, they cannot have the same impact that they would have, say, for a firm, for example. And so in terms of who is on the board, they have two people who come with a investment background, as well as two staffers who have a very significant investment background. And they have an investor advisory committee. And again, it's the only advisory committee comprising of a single stakeholder. So it's entirely investors. So for example, I'm on the NAC, which has, they have an investor, they have users, they have lenders, they have preparers, right? They have all kinds, they have an educator. So lots of different in types of stakeholders that are involved in providing the feedback for the nonprofit community. In this scenario, it's only literally made up of the single stakeholder. So they talk a little bit about what they talk about, the projects, the trends, etc. And then again, some of the members that were new this year. So Heather McPherson from T. Rowe Price, Catherine Mueller from KBW, and David Pizzamenti from Amundi Asset Management. And so here are some of the other people who are involved, and you probably recognize a lot of these companies as you go through it. And they meet pretty frequently, as you can see. So they met in November, February, and May within that fiscal year, and what they talked about in terms of some of the discussion. They also talked about as I said earlier, even on the NAC, when we look at this, they have different groups that they're looking at. So Jennifer Dager, who is at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Alyssa Federico from the Foundation for the Carolinas, right, very much involved in that position that they have within these types of foundations to provide access to funds for not-for-profit entities. But they also have Andrea Cantor, who was great the last meeting that we had, really giving the perspective of the lender as they go through that. And then again, they have Dennis Gephardt from Moody's Investors. And as you go through here, even J.R. Miller, who's from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So within each of them, they have FASAC, EITF, PCC, SBAC. All of them have at least a few people who come with that investor background. And they talk a little bit about their agenda consultation project that they did. And they give you a little bit of background on why they did it, what they did to get feedback. And again, you can see 29% of the respondents were actually investors. So they were the highest category of those that responded that were not sort of those form letters that came regarding digital assets. And so when you look at this, they do look at the prioritized items by the type. And again, when they look at investors specifically, disaggregation of information, which makes sense because they want to make decisions, the statement of cash flow, ESG, intangibles. And then, taking into what they're considering and how it applies to various projects that they're working on as they go forward. So as you can see, quite a bit going on in this area. The investors are a big, important group for the FASB to think about as a user of the financial statements. And so they want to make sure that they always incorporate their feedback. And so this was a really nice summary that they put out there of what they did with investors in their prior fiscal year. So that's a wrap on this week's blog. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you on next week's blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.